Hi everyone, we'll start in another 2 minutes. We'll just wait for everyone to join in. Hi everyone, for everyone who's just joined, we'll start in another few minutes. We'll just wait for everyone to join. Good evening, everyone. The Ashoka University Economic Society welcomes you to the first webinar in our new webinar series on the metaverse. Today's webinar sets out to explore the question of how Web3 and metaverse backed by blockchain are poised to shape the future of industry. We are here today with Ms. Rohini Trehan, who's a seasoned technology leader with rich experience in technology consulting and delivery with primary experience in financial services. As the practice head for blockchain at Infosys, Ms. Trehan is responsible for thought leadership, the designing of disruptive solutions, and consulting for blockchain led business transformations across industry verticals. The domain of metaverse, blockchain, and Web3 have been gaining rapid momentum in recent years. Web3 and metaverse leverage blockchain to create new concepts, business models, and opportunities. Ms. Trehan will expand upon these aspects, amongst others, in today's webinar. To the audience, please send any questions that you may have during the webinar in the Q&A box so that Ms. Trehan can answer them during the Q&A session of the webinar. I would now like to welcome Ms. Trehan to deliver her talk. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and very glad to be speaking to all of you. Um, so today, like Vaishnavi said, I will cover concepts of Web3, of Metaverse, how blockchain fits in, and a little more on the blockchain perspective dimension of Metaverse and how the industry is basically taking on metaverse, and how metaverse actually fulfills key use cases um, in the industry. Okay, so let's look at. I'll just turn off my video for the duration of the presentation to save some bandwidth. Pardon me for that. Okay, so I'm sure there won't be many here who would have any idea about the previous version of Web 1, compared to the internet that we know today. So actually, there has been a life cycle to that, how web has evolved. So Web 1.0 was the first version of the World Wide Web that Berners-Lee had pioneered. Okay, this was the age of static web pages retrieved from servers, and Web 1 was defined by protocols simply HTTP and HTTP. I've seen those days, late 90s, where we did not have browsers. We would just send emails to servers for web pages to be retrieved, and you could read stuff. So it was only static web pages at that time. And content creation at that time was still in its infancy, where users had almost no opportunity to create interactive applications or participate in such applications. Then came Web 2.0. Okay. Uh, and Web 2.0 brought about a paradigm shift in how the internet was used over the previous decades. Okay. It brought interactivity, social connectivity, and enabled user generated content to be viewed in an instant. This is perhaps the web that most of you, who are studying at the Ashoka University, are familiar with, the web that we know of today. So Web 2 was all about mobile, about social, and about cloud. E-commerce, advertising, and subscription-based models have emerged as dominant business models during Web 2.0. Of course, there were concomitant security issues in Web 2.0. And now Web 3 is the evolution of Web 2.0. So what is Web 3? Web 3 is a new stack of technologies that embrace decentralization, because all the control and of information and data rests with the centralized owner in Web 2.0. Web 3.0 goes, the, goes a notch above and decentralizes everything, because it is built, operated, and owned by users. At least it is envisioned to be built, operated, and owned by users. And Web 3.0 includes blockchain, and which is what offers decentralized identity, infrastructure, and most importantly, security. Security is a very important dimension for blockchain. So Web 3.0, if one could summarize, Web 3.0 puts power in the hands of the individuals rather than corporations. Okay, and through this presentation, I'll walk you through how it really puts power in the hands of the individuals rather than the organizations that we are aware of, that we are familiar with. So let's look at what is Web 3.0. So Web 3 can be viewed from three key dimensions. Okay, technology, concepts, and use cases. And the technologies in Web 3 basically are used to unlock concepts, which in turn enable a variety of use cases that you see on this slide. So amongst technology constituents, in Web 3, the center of gravity, you can say, rests with the wallet. Okay, so a wallet is an account or a representation of an individual. A wallet holds anything and everything that is related to a user. So it stores a user's data, a user's private key, access to information, which which are basically a validation that the user owns a certain data or controls certain digital assets. Now, to understand a Web3 wallet, all you need to do is to visualize your own physical wallet, which holds your IDs, which holds photos of your loved ones, money, credit cards, a grocery list, and maybe random stuff. And it can see everything about you, which any centralized service would not, because the wallet is yours and you are the sovereign owner of that wallet. So the second concept, the second technology dimension of Web 3.0 are the tokens. Okay. So tokens are digital representation of assets or value on Web3. Each of these could be monetary or rights related. They could be natively digital or from the real world. They are held on blockchain networks. And the behavior of tokens is defined by smart contracts on blockchain. Okay. There's a very rich concept or value to tokens, especially in financial services. In fact, you can see some tokens here. So tokenization is a very rich concept within blockchain. Perhaps that could be left for another discussion. I would encourage you to explore. But tokenization is a very rich concept and offering of blockchain. Smart contracts are decentralized programs that run on blockchain, and of course, blockchain networks themselves bring together heterogeneous sort of set of people with varied interests, even competitors, to collaborate and deliver work. Okay. So, so Web3 on the back of blockchain, Web 3.0 represents a larger ecosystem where, as more and more people put a higher percentage of their net worth into cryptocurrency, obviously everything, the underlying platform for cryptocurrency are decentralized exchanges. So while this is banned in India, all over the world, there's increasing money that is going into cryptocurrency. So obviously, people who hold cryptocurrency, they want to be able to use this currency in a full range of transactions. Okay, whatever one would imagine with fiat currency, with a rupee, they would want to do with a Bitcoin or a Dogecoin or what have you. And so they want to use cryptocurrency in a retail marketplace. They would want to use cryptocurrency in, trading assets, in making payments in a retail marketplace, or doing financial transactions, purchasing a phone, anything of the sort. So it is Web3 that will enable users to do that eventually, when they want to be able to use cryptocurrency for any of the retail transactions. Another very important aspect of Web3 is that it can bring decentralization to the business world by enabling community ownership of companies. Today, corporates like mine are run top down. There is a board, there is a team at the top that manages the organization and that runs it. So these smaller stakeholders have little or no say. The only say that they have is for the items that are put up in the annual general meeting. They can vote, and that too, their stake is very low, and there's nothing really that they can accomplish. But this can be sort of overcome or overridden by the concept of DAO, that is decentralized autonomous organizations, which are native to internet, which are native to Web 3.0. We look at that. Okay. So all in all, we've only, the kind of depth, the kind of value that Web 3.0 holds, we've only just begun to scratch, the surface. And there's very little that we can actually visualize today, but it holds a world of value. So let's look at, one of the concepts of decentralized finance, which is enabled by Web 3.0. So DeFi is a term for financial products and services that are accessible to anyone who can use public blockchain, pretty much anyone with an internet connection. With DeFi, the markets are always open. There are no central authorities who can block payments or deny you access to anything so long as the pre-configured conditions are met. Okay. So decentralized, so in fact, what is run on a Coinbase or a Binance, any crypto exchange, uh, is completely decentralized and totally open to the whole ecosystem. Okay. Is my voice not clear? Hello?
No, it's fine now. There was
It's
some
fine now.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So decentralized finance is basically it enables a huge amount of uh, flexibility, but there is a rider that goes with it. It also accompanies a lot of risk. So there is, for decentralized finance to run, there needs to be regulation to back it. If if once regulation is there, it it could, you could create an equivalent of a Bombay Stock Exchange or a national stock exchange in the Indian context, where you could trade on stocks, on derivatives. You could do lending of securities. You could create smart securities, exchange of assets, and what have you. So it can really open up a huge world of opportunities on backed by blockchain and Web3. So, um, so effectively, one could say that DeFi is an alternative to a system that's opaque. Okay, we do not know what goes on within BSC and NSE, and especially there are cartels of brokers, of huge investors that actually drive share prices in certain directions to their own vested interests, because BSE is very opaque. It is tightly controlled, and the worst part is it is held together by decades-old infrastructure and processes. However, DeFi gives you control and visibility of your money. It gives exposure to global markets. So it creates a borderless world. Another benefit, a simpler one that I'll talk about, is cross-border payments. Now, cross-border payments is another use case where blockchain also delivers huge value. And in the existing systems, if you're aware, if there were to be a cross-border payment, if somebody was studying overseas and their parents were sending them fee, uh, there would be at least 10 to about 30% of charges levied on that cross-border remittance. But if the that is because of the network of correspondent banks to which the cross-border payment goes. But if this were to be put on blockchain and on decentralized finance, the cost overhead would be a fraction of that. So cross-border payments is another use case where decentralized finance can deliver tremendous value. So, and before I move on, I will encourage you to read up about the GameStop saga. Okay. A very interesting, the news papers were, totally covered with this particular episode that happened earlier this year. A bunch of Reddit users, I think it was Wall Street something was the name of the group of Reddit users, which so they actually had tracked hedge funds, short stopping the GameStop stock, and they had triggered an unnatural spike in the share price of GameStop to teach a lesson to the large hedge funds. And what happened is that Robinhood is a trading app. So because this is centralized, um, the vested interests of the large players, the brokers, actually prevented this bunch of users from trading. They blocked access. They stopped trading on the platform, I think, and some stocks. Had this entire ecosystem been on a decentralized exchange, the results of that episode would have been different. And this would help bring about a lot of transparency in the current, financial market. Okay. So next, I wanted to briefly cover the decentralized autonomous organization. So, what is a DAO? It's an organization that operates autonomously on the, one can say it's native to the internet. It is completely driven by smart contracts and controlled by the processes that are actually programmed within smart contracts. So think of DAO as a business that is collectively owned. So if there were to be a capital for this DAO, it would be calculated in terms of governance tokens. That is the and the quantum of tokens that one owns would determine the voting rights. The business processes are programmed and therefore will be completely transparent, and therefore access to the processes or the business model is completely democratized. There is no hierarchy. There is decentralized decision making. The number of votes that the tokens that you hold determines your voting rights, and it's completely transparent. So I'll give you a couple of examples. There are quite a few that are mentioned on this slide. So imagine a charity. Okay, imagine a charity which runs on donations from the crowd, based on crowdfunding model, and anybody from anywhere in the world can take up membership, and this charitable platform or DAO accepts donations. But the group can vote, and there'll be multiple projects that are posted on it, what you're familiar with today, the milap.org, etc. So people would vote that the funds should be diverted to a particular project of a particular needy individual. There'll be multiple projects that are posted. People would vote, and beyond a certain point in time, the funds would be diverted or they'll be distributed across. So that is one simple example of a DAO. Okay, so a summary of differences that this is very, very granular. It works at the grassroots level, very transparent, whereas companies, corporates that we are used to are hierarchical, very tightly controlled, and mostly not transparent. There's limited information that is really disclosed to the public. Okay. So what is metaverse? It is indeed a universe beyond the real one, which offers seamless connectivity between the virtual and the real worlds. It enriches the real world by bringing together, a confluence of technologies like AR, VR, XR, DLT. DLT is basically blockchain. I use it interchangeably. 5G, AI, IoT. So actually, metaverse sounds a lot like Web3, but while Web3 contributes to the metaverse by espousing decentralization, it is not the metaverse. The metaverse, by definition, succeeds the internet as it was in Web 2.0. So the simplest example, or one could say the genesis of metaverse, uh, came out with gaming. I'm sure a lot of you are keen gamers in the university. So basically, the gaming ecosystem acclimatized consumers to the concept of metaverse. But of course, today it is not exclusive to gaming, and it is the gaming system which sort of evolved and brought in new concepts uh, uh, in terms of the metaverse. In fact, the first virtual concert was held on in the Fortnite ecosystem of I think it is Epic Games, which is where the first virtual concert was hosted, and they ended up making about $14 billion of money only with a virtual concert hosted on Metaverse. Of course, this was done over a couple of years. So the metaverse has captured universal headlines for the first time after Facebook changed its name to Meta. But taking a step back, Steven Spielberg movie called Ready Player One was released in 2011. That was the first time in public that the concept of metaverse. We must watch that. It has a competition in metaverse. The movie is entirely around competition in the metaverse, and the term was actually coined in a novel called Snow Crash, authored by Neil Stephenson. And so the metaverse that we know now are actually different versions that have evolved from those original ones that were visualized. Okay. So, and of course, not to forget, the pandemic threw a curveball and accelerated the need for evolution of the virtual immersive experiences. And who knows it more than students and people like us who are working in the corporate and where it has totally eliminated the barrier that there was the thought of physical distances. So the pandemic has played a huge role in underlining the significance and importance of the metaverse. Okay, so let's look at a cross section of the metaverse. What does it comprise of? Okay, so it the first, if you can see from a cross section perspective, the top layer is user interface, which is true for every application. But the user interface, if one were to blend it, it is rendered by underlying AR, VR, and XR frameworks. And it is this layer that is responsible for the immersive experience. So if you were building a metaverse for a high-tech engine lab for BMW, this layer would be different from the metaverse that you would create for a luxury apparel brand like Prada. And so the this is the layer which is custom designed based on the use case, because the concept would be different. Similarly, there would be a play to earn sort of metaverse in a gaming ecosystem. Uh, and there could be something related to education. So every metaverse would have its own unique immersive experience that would have to be programmed for that particular environment. But the the brain and the nervous system of the metaverse sits in the distributed ledger, which is the blockchain. And this is industry agnostic. Okay. So the primary building blocks from a blockchain perspective are um, an avatar. An avatar has a physical manifestation, of course, but more importantly, it is a unique identity that is stored in the blockchain. Identity, as we know it, our Aadhaar cards and our passports and our PAN cards and other credentials, education certificates. Security perspective, digital assets. We spoke about the wallet, cryptocurrency, NFTs, and governance of the metaverse. That is the processes that could be configured. So largely, a lot of, if you see the entire ecosystem, core building blocks actually reside and are managed by the blockchain. So let's go a level deeper here. Okay, so what is an avatar? I'm sure you are familiar with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So an avatar could be to preserve identity. It could simply be something that you can pick up when you enter a metaverse, and that's your physical manifestation in that metaverse for that session. That would be totally fungible. You can pick up something that is available, or you would invest in a non-fungible token. You could pick up an avatar which is unique, which is not replicable, at least in the metaverse ecosystem. And and that lasts for as long as you have the ownership of that non-fungible token. Then you can have wallets. MetaMask is a public wallet which can hold multiple things. It is neutral to crypto, fiat currency, digital assets, game tokens, and it works across platforms and portfolios because it is public. Okay, and that would make life so easy. Today you work in different platforms at different networks. You have to create a separate wallet. You have to create, you're working on Paytm. So you use Paytm, you have to create a wallet there. You have to load that. You're, working on GPay, that is separate, or any Airtel money, you have a separate wallet there. But MetaMask is a public wallet. It can seamlessly integrate to any payment ecosystem, to any metaverse, or any other such, network where you need to transact. It could be a decentralized exchange where you are trading in stocks, or it could be a marketplace where you are buying some stuff. Okay. So, that's the kind of benefit. And MetaMask is entirely based on blockchain. Um, we've already spoken about digital assets. Incidentally, this crowded NF picture that you're looking at uh, is is Beeple's NFT, uh, collage NFT that sold for $69 million at Christie's NFT platform. This was the craze, and I think I'm not sure if this was really the highest, but that's what I could recollect, about this. Uh, the more important and serious features of metaverse backed by blockchain, basically the building blocks of blockchain are identity and credentials. This concept of self-sovereign identity, is very crucial. So imagine today, when you enrolled in Ashoka University, you would have had to submit all your credentials, as in your school leaving certificates or your past, educational courses, your identity in terms of your Aadhaar card or passport or whatever other details, and you will have to do the same thing to the next institute that you join, and then to the company that you join, and to the bank where you open your account. Every single organization that you have, you are going to be associated with, you will have to share your credentials and identity again and again. And once you've shared the identity, your credentials in physical form, there's no guarantee of their privacy or confidentiality. Okay. Although, the measures have been strengthened, but still. So, in blockchain brings out the concept of self-sovereign identity. Imagine if all the stakeholders were on a common blockchain ecosystem, and therefore, when you were to join Ashoka University, you would raise a request, that, this is the token for Ashoka University to validate my identity and to accept my credentials, because the network has already done the background check, once when I was enrolled, and that's it. That suffices. Similarly, for the bank where I want to open an account, or a company where I've got a job and I want to join. So, so it brings about huge benefits, and there's a lot of research that is happening on identity in blockchain. Uh, and the next one is security. So, and for the reason that blockchain is called immutable, because it does one-way cryptographic hashing of information and records on the blockchain, and you can have only the person who has a key to unlock it can do that. And therefore, it makes blockchain very secure. Uh, so let's look at the types of metaverse today. So metaverse could be classified into three categories largely. There's no, so the definition is still evolving because the concept is still evolving, but this is largely how the industry defines it. There is the centralized or traditional metaverse, which is not blockchain based, which is the conventional blockchain, the gaming ecosystems that we are used to. And so of course, in the centralized or traditional blockchain, there's not much flexibility in terms of architecture. Data privacy might be an issue because you're just relying on a centralized repository, one owner. And then there is, the concept of centralized blockchain, a centralized metaverse with blockchain. Okay. So centralized metaverse with blockchain, basically there is one central organization that holds all the information about individuals, but stores on blockchain, or users, individuals or users. So visualize the metaverse that is the omniverse metaverse that is hosted by Nvidia for developers to create their ecosystems. Okay, these are the platforms. So one could say these create the platforms. And then companies, retail companies like BMW or Louis Vuitton, they can create their own metaverses for immersive customer experience. That is really for customer acquisition. We'll talk more about the industries. So those are more from a marketing perspective, but there is a very important, dimension to uh, metaverse, basically, and bringing in the concept of NFTs for luxury goods, at least. That's the example that I want to bring in. So I'll take the example of BMWs. Okay, so let's assume that BMW has a metaverse. For every vehicle that they launch, they obviously are uh, suffering from a lot of challenges around counterfeit spare parts in the industry. Okay, so when they're when they sell their vehicles, the people go to people buy spurious spare parts for any issues that they have, and then these vehicles are sold in the secondary market. But if if they were NFT backed vehicles, the ownership can be traced to the BMW's centralized metaverse with NFTs, and the metadata, as in the spare parts, serial numbers, etc., would be tracked on the NFT. So that is one way of arresting counterfeit product circulation. And the last, the completely decentralized public metaverse, actually operates through a DAO. We've understood the definition of a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. So this, the utopian metaverse would run in a public DAO. So there are virtual worlds like Decentraland and Sandbox. So Decentraland actually sells virtual real estate where people buy land, they set up their own metaverses, and uh, take it further for various revenue models. They define new business models. And also there are play to earn gaming guilds like the Good Games Guild. Okay. So there's one very interesting example where Coca-Cola partnered with Polygon. Polygon is a layer 2 blockchain, public blockchain, to generate NFTs, shareable NFTs to their loyal fans. So, you've been playing games on the Coca-Cola metaverse for a long time. You'll win some coupons, there'll be discount coupons, or you'll win some tokens which can be redeemed for some other features, etc. So that sort of summarizes the different types of uh, metaverses that one could categorize. Okay. Uh, so let's look at what is happening really in the industry. Now, it's important to be able to, for metaverse, it's important to be able to differentiate between the technology at the core and organizations, consumer driven organizations that are creating abstractions or applications on top of the technology. Okay, so so effectively one could say that there are three categories of uh, uh, organizations which have keen interest in metaverse. The first is the core, hardcore technology companies, some of which you are looking at on the slide right now. These are core technology companies of sorts. Then the second category is the consumer companies which create applications because they have direct interfacing with the end customer, the consumers, that is the you and me. Okay. And the third category are the investors, the venture capitalists who invest in these underlying technology firms to take metaverse in a particular direction. Okay. So, so if you look at, the Facebook has invested a lot in setting up their a lab to research on metaverse. So they went, whole hog. They even changed their name. So much faith Zuckerberg has on metaverse. Microsoft has acquired a startup for creating building blocks of metaverse. Epic Games is a leader, although it has primarily gaming background, but it has done a whole lot. It has actually created a platform and has sort of outsourced services to other consumer companies. So yeah, we spoke about in-game concerts in Fortnite, and Epic Games has also collaborated with Lego and Balenciaga for setting up their metaverses. Then there is Naver Z. It's a Korean South Korean company, and they have a Zepeto metaverse ecosystem, which has a large number of subscribers, and they set up metaverses for consumer companies. And for example, they partnered with Samsung to launch their one of the Galaxy phone with a treasure hunt. What fun that you're on a metaverse, you're on a metaverse treasure hunt, and then you win a coupon or a token and maybe a new phone. So they could launch a metaverse and release some 100 free phones in that particular event, the release event. And then there's good old Nvidia. Nvidia actually created a metaverse platform. Omniverse is based on multiple graphic processing units to make it very capable. And other organizations create actually system integrator service providers create metaverses on top of NVIDIA. All right. So now when you visualize metaverse, these are some of the technology companies, not all of them, but these are the leaders. And the consumer applications metaverse sits on top of these platforms. Okay. Uh, all right. So we spoke about the technology companies. Now let's look at the applications of metaverse. Okay. So financial services, of course, there are, you can bring in new revenue models, primarily DeFi. If DeFi were to kick off, if regulations were to come in, it opens a huge amount of opportunity for an individual to be able to trade on decentralized exchanges, to be able to invest in stable coins, to be able to save money on cross-border payments, etc. But remember, I'll just take a step back from a consumer company's perspective, consumer organization's perspective, the underlying utility across the board for all industry verticals is immersive digital marketing for enhanced customer acquisition. So from a marketing perspective, Metaverse is a fantastic tool. It requires investment. It requires complete overhauling from time to time, in terms of ideas, but it is a fantastic tool. Uh, so yeah, financial services, we've already spoken about apparel, luxury goods. Healthcare has very strong implementations of metaverse. So you could imagine a fully immersive remote telemedicine uh, where you don't need to step out of your house and you can consult a doctor. Then there is collaborative R&D, and the biggest thing is assisted invasive procedures, surgeries that can be assisted over metaverse. In fact, there's an example of very recently a complex surgery was carried out in Brazil, and over metaverse, actually assisted by um, doctors from around the world. And manufacturing for again collaborative R&D for investigating designs jointly in the ecosystem. Retail and high tech are a couple of other industry verticals that can derive huge benefits in terms of metaverse. Okay, so I can see some questions coming up. Let me wrap up quickly and then we can address the questions. So I'm sure most of you have done your schooling and college in India. So I want you to go back, just I want to take you back to your history lessons on the Indus Valley civilization in school, and remember the effort it would take to memorize all of that information. So cut to 2022. Imagine if you had a headset in the classroom and your teacher walked you through Mohenjo-daro. You were actually walking through Mohenjo-daro and observing their urban planning systems and baked brick houses and drainage systems, etc. Life would be so much easier than mugging all of those history lessons in school. At least, yeah, I really think that it would have been a boon if we had metaverse in those days. But even today, while education has quite evolved, it still has a long way to go. So metaverse effectively has the potential to completely transform learning by making it experiential, and eliminating this system of rote learning. And yeah, so there is, there's been a lot of evolution. It can make it experiential. It can democratize education because you can access the remotely. It brings people who are geographically dispersed from varied economical backgrounds to come together to learn, and in a very cost effective, flexible manner, which is the biggest advantage. It ensures visualization and storytelling for the difficult subjects. It will be so easy for students to absorb and understand and really enrich the learning experience. And bring in a dimension of enhanced data capture on the learning performance. So there's a third dimension of not just scoring on tests, but the intuitive capture of information about how well the learning is happening, or information absorption is happening, and of course data privacy and confidentiality. Um, so that is all that I had today. I think I hope it has not been too boring for all of you. I hope you go back, and there are a few interesting you know um, things that there are to learn, and you should definitely go back and read about them. We could open up for questions now. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the very insightful talk. I have personally learned a lot from your talk. I was very hesitant to do so before this. We have a lot of questions, so we'll get started. The first question that we've received is Web3, Metaverse, and blockchain are concepts that are gaining relevance these days. How can a layman get some sort of foothold and engage in the conversation on Web3 and the Metaverse?
Okay, Web 3.0, metaverse and blockchain are concepts that are gaining relevance. How can a layman get some sort of foothold and engage in the conversation on Web 3.0 and metaverse? That depends on what your interests are. Um so effectively, are you interested in programming, or are you interested in gaming? You have the choice to experiment on programming in metaverse. You could pick up AR, VR, XR technologies. Those are upcoming, and also experiment on. I'm aware of the Omniverse platform. That's what we use. NVIDIA's Omniverse platform. So you can check out if there's anything open source that's available and experiment developing it. And that's from, for those of you who are interested in development, or you could go and participate in, buy something on Decentralized, set up a metaverse, invite people. Yeah, those are the options that you have.
Uh, Thank you. The next question we have is what do you think has been the most lucrative new business that has been catalyzed by Web3 and the metaverse? Do you see this technology being adopted across various spheres in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I have different examples for both Web3 and Metaverse. I think from a Web3 perspective, financial services has tremendous scope. Both given the number of use cases that Web3 unlocks, over you saw over decentralized finance, lending in the virtual space, and there are several others that are backed by blockchain. So Web 3.0 has tremendous potential in financial services. And metaverse, I think the greatest benefits of metaverse lie in education and training. Education is not just school and college education, but also industrial learning, training of it's in medical colleges, of course, and in training for complex development and R&D in high tech companies, or let's say in a nuclear plant where the terrain is very difficult, it's dangerous, and therefore you can do the training remotely. So metaverse has huge potential in several industries. Web 3.0, as of now, what has been unveiled, I think it has tremendous potential for unveiling new business models in financial services. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Um, what do you think are some disadvantages of using the metaverse?
Disadvantage, the one and the only disadvantage is that people would spend more time in front of yet another screen rather than venturing out and breathing fresh air, going out, socializing in person. That is the disadvantage, I think. But even if you were to, I think it's important to focus on the more serious advantages of metaverse. um, yeah, not the frivolous ones, and definitely there's no compensation for in-person engagement, in any sphere of life, absolutely. So that's the disadvantage.
The next question is, how will the metaverse transform enterprises, and are the regulators ready for the same?
Yeah, I think I covered this. So metaverse can totally create has the potential, rather web3 has the potential to create internet native enterprises. Basically, we discussed decentralized autonomous organizations, and it has the potential, web 3.0 has the potential to make them totally democratized, with control in the hands of the users, rather than the top-down model in which corporates run today. But regulators are not ready. Regulators are not ready for the basic stuff of decentralization. So Web3 is still way ahead. So yes, they're evolving. Regulators are catching up with the technology evolution, but that they have a lot of ground to cover.
Okay, we've just gotten another question. One of the most exciting facets of the metaverse is its ability to allow people to live in the experience of others. What happens when we don't agree with that perspective or experience, and how can we protect ourselves and others without building filter bubbles?
Okay, so this, I think this is where the regulator or regulation dimension comes into play. And it's quite a bit of there was some experience reported. I think I've read about it, some adverse experience somebody faced on metaverse. So I think it has to do with regulation on the metaverse. It has to do with um, you know compensation to be made legal in case of any such experiences, and making uh, any the inflictor of the adverse experience pay for it, basically tracking, and so or the order of the law should work in metaverse as well, and because it's a virtual world and it's supposed to emulate the real world. So regulation is an important dimension, whether it's public metaverse, more importantly in a public metaverse, because in a centralized metaverse, there will be an organization or an entity that is controlling everything. But the risk exists in public metaverses, which is where there should be a mandate of regulation to control such experiences. Yeah.
In the interest of time, we'll just take one last question. Um, do you think there are any initiatives or concepts in the Web3 sphere that are not getting the attention that they deserve? If so, which one and why?
Yeah, I think blockchain has tremendous potential because I work on blockchain day in and day out. So it has tremendous savings, newer business models to deliver huge benefits to multiple industries. So I think decentralization is the dimension of Web 3.0 that deserves the greatest, importance and focus, and which is what I think it is already getting it. So I'm expecting this to grow quite a bit in the next few years.
Thank you so much for answering the questions from our audience. I would like to hand it over to Sanya for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking out time for this phenomenal session. We are really grateful for the opportunity to host you and listen to your knowledgeable insights on this topical theme. And thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining and making this an interactive session. The recording of the webinar will soon be shared with all of you. Lastly, thank you to all the members of the Economic Society who helped make this event a success. We hope you all have a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me. Bye bye and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.